got Colin Clark, General Manager for Lloyd's Register. Good morning, Colin. Very interesting topic that you tackled there. Technology for the future, 2030 and beyond. Could you provide our viewers and our listeners some brief key points that you've discussed, the technologies that you think will touch the shipbuilding and naval industry as well?
Sure. So for us, it's all about forward looking and how is the world going to look in the next 15, 20, 30 years? And then what technologies are going to be available to meet those changing demands over that same period? And we see lots of changes in terms of regulatory drivers, political drivers, environmental drivers. And really the question that we ask ourselves, and that we've asked our clients and we've asked some of the partners in the Global Marine Trends 2030 program, is that what technologies are going to change that will have the most value for people going forward as they encounter new challenges, and how would those technologies then drive new markets, new industries, and add new value to what our clients are trying to do. And particularly here in Canada, we're in a prime position to really harness that potential, both from a naval perspective and a commercial perspective, and in the ocean space perspective, that we're looking at fleet renewal programs, we're looking at harnessing natural resources, whether it's LNG terminals or other alternative energy sources. So really the time is to be bold. It's to look forward. It's to make your best guess about what may be happening in the world, and then plotting forward with the technology that you think adds the most value.
Give our viewers there a brief, a bit of a teaser, maybe three of the topmost technologies that are going to be affecting their industry.
Sure. So for me, it's really all about data and big data. When you look at the amount of information that we process in a day, it just continues to grow and grow. And companies like Google have been extremely successful in proving the value in harnessing all that data to be able to make reliable decisions very quickly. And as that data grows, it almost creates an industry on itself. That is, the more data you have, the more data you want. And then you obviously have to have the infrastructure behind that to be able to both process the data, communicate the data, and then make fast decision making on it. And I think where we're really headed, over time, particularly in the marine industry, is looking at smart ships, or technomax ships as we call them, where these ships will be fully loaded with as much technology as you can almost dream up now. But when we get to that point where we have ships that are actively monitoring their own health and making recommendations about how you should operate your ships, then we're really harnessing the potential of all that data that's currently just sitting out there not being used.
You also mentioned robotics and unmanned vehicles making a big presence in the shipbuilding industry. How do you picture them in this part?
Sure. Yeah, so we already see sort of on a very small scale AUV, ROV type work, and we expect that to grow. Now when it comes to the certification or inspection business, or even for an operator, it's about putting a person inside of a tank or do inspections and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of value in having people involved in the process, but again, people make mistakes. So we think that as things become more efficient and in cost-saving measures, and looking at a longer or short-term monitoring exercise to really develop all that data again about the health of your asset, we're going to see a lot more AUVs and ROVs and that kind of things that are deployed to pull that human element away a little bit. One, to guard against that risk, but also we think that the quality of the data and the volume of data can really increase on that side. Robotics is probably, to be honest, is probably a little further out there when it comes to the operations side of the marine industry. But it's been proven in the automobile industry already that if you have robots building vehicles, they can do it a lot faster, a lot cheaper, and a lot higher quality process. So I think the first inroads of robotics that we'll see will be borrowing from other industries and expanding on it to apply to building those future ships.
And interesting that you mentioned borrowing from current industries, and we're seeing a big trend in 3D printing, both for commercial use and for even home use. Give me that scenario that you mentioned about 3D printers on board.
Yeah, so I mean, really, if you want to think really outside the box, right now every ship sailing carries a fairly extensive set of spare parts. So it's taking up weight, it's taking up space. Some cases you may not even have the part that you need depending on what breaks. So where we see things going over time is that potentially you could have a ship where you have a 3D printer on board and a bunch of the input material that it would be required to build pieces. But as things break, you would be able to build a piece on board and have it installed without ever having to go to port to address that.
What do you find interesting that you keep coming back to the shipbuilding for?
For me, it's all about the possibilities. You know, as I say, in Canada, we are right now uniquely positioned on all fronts. I mean, we've got older ships that we're trying to squeeze that little bit of extra life out of. We've got new and novel designs. We're presented with an industry which are just, you know, sort of very eager to get involved and to invest in Canada. There's all sorts of ideas out there of what the next great technology might be, and the upside for the shipbuilding industry is phenomenal. So we want to be part of that discussion. What we are committed to at Lloyd's Register is working together for a safer world, and we see technology and the advancement of that technology through the marine sector, even here in Canada, as being, you know, central to that.
Well, now looking into the future, what would you say would be ideal topic content for the future shipbuilding technology forums that might be coming along your way?
I think probably that the next step is investigating applications for technology. So I think, you know, we heard some talk earlier about what's coming next, and we're starting to actually build some ships now. So I think what we really need to get to is how do we apply those technologies? So identifying which technologies have the most value to address upcoming and future needs. But then we need to get into the nuts and bolts of figuring out how do we harness the available technology now and progress future technologies so that we can actually get them incorporated into designs. Because it's a sort of a shifting landscape when it comes to mission profiles and the available technologies. But the one thing that's for certain is that if we don't incorporate any of that into the designs that are being built today, then by the time today's ships are built, they'll already be obsolete.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Colin, and probably the next shipbuilding forum we'll be discussing that.
Excellent. We look forward to it.
Good day.
Thank you.